Welcome everybody. In this class we will learn how to find the square roots of perfect squares. Now this is a very important topic, and understanding this topic will equip you with the powers to actually answer questions related to perfect squares and square roots of perfect squares in a more faster manner. That would mean you are among the top 5%, because most of these questions, they appear in competitive exams and in aptitude tests and so on and so forth. And even corporate companies these days have started giving questions involving perfect squares and finding the square roots of perfect squares in their aptitude exams. So without any further delay, let me just start off this particular section. Now foremost, before you could actually try solving any questions on finding the square roots of perfect squares, you need to know this table. This is the table that you need to write it in your mind, which is 1 squared will be 1, 2 squared will give you 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25, 6 squared is 36, 7 squared 49, 8 squared is 64, 9 squared is 81, 10 squared is 100. So this is the first part. Now after this there is a second part. 11 squared is 121, 12 squared is 144, 13 squared is 169, 14 squared is 196, 15 squared is 225, 16 squared is 256, 17 squared is 289, 18 squared is 324, 19 squared is 361, and 20 squared is 400. Now I would be utilizing this table to start off with, so that the topic could be understood by you. Now whenever you square a number, say, let me write this down, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 10. I'm not going to write a 10, I'm going to place a 0. If you take the square of this, 1 square will give you 1, 2 square will give you 4, 3 square will give you 9, 4 square will give you 16, 5 square will give you 25, so I'm going to place 5 there. This I'll place 6 there. 6 squared is going to give you 36, 7 squared is 49, is going to give you 9, 8 squared is 4, 9 squared is 81, 1, 0 squared is 0. Now clearly you can see you are getting 6 on two sides, or I would say at 2 points. At 4 squared is producing me 6, 6 squared is producing me 6. Now if you were to take 7 squared is producing me 9, 3 squared is producing me 9. If you were to take 8 squared is producing me 4, and 2 squared is producing me 4. And 1, if you were to take 1 squared is producing me 1, and 9 squared is also producing me 1, and 0 is unique, 0 squared is producing me 0. Now this is what is important. So you square a number, square the number. Whenever you square the number, you would either get a 0, you would either get a 1, you will either get a 4, you will either get, and then you will either get a 6, you will either get a 9. So 0, 1, 4, 5, 6, 9. That's it. So these are the options that you would get when you square any number. Now what is producing those numbers? In other words, I'm asking you a question. Square of that number that is producing this, can you tell me what would those numbers be which has the ability to produce 0? Of course, if I want to get 0, I can say square of 0, or I can say square of 10, or I can say square of 100, or I can say square of 1000. All of these squares will produce me that 0 at the unique place. So if I were to take the square of these values, 0 squared is 0, 10 squared is 100, and so on and so forth. So all of these squares are producing me 0 at the unique place. That is what is required for me. So 0 will be only produced by a number that has 0 in its unique place. Now when will 1 be produced? 1 squared is going to be 1, and 9 squared also is producing me 1 because 9 squared is 81, and 19 squared will also produce me the same thing, and so on and so forth. So this 1 is actually produced either by 1 or a number ending with 9. Similarly, 4 squared will be produced by 2 or by 8 because 8 squared is 64. 5, the unit place 5 will square of this quantity. There is just one number which has the ability to produce a quantity which ends with 5, and that is going to be just 5. It can be 5 squared, it can be 125 squared, it can be 625 squared, and so on and so forth. So the ending number would be a 5. So 6 squared can be produced by a number ending with 4 or a number ending with 6. And similarly 9, this quantity, the number 9, because it's a perfect square with a number 9, it can be produced by a number ending with 3. 3 squared will produce me 9. 7 squared will produce me 9. 17 squared will also produce me 9. I hope you are able to follow. So the point what I wish to mention here is square root, or I would say the square of any number will produce me one of these things. That is the important observation that you will have to make. So having known this, you can outrightly state, say for example, I want you to find out what is the square root of 1024. This is an illustration. Now you go up here, you see that there is a last digit 4. Now that 4 can either be produced by squaring 2 or by squaring 8. So what you need to do, just go over here, you write down the probabilities. Either a 2 can produce me that 4 or a 8 can be producing me that 4. So this is in the unit place. Okay, now that you have got that, just strike this off, and you need to have another number over here. So what should that number be is now going to be that challenge for us. So take the next 2 digits that you see here. Now you have a 10 here. Now you will have to locate for that number which when squared produces me 10 or closer to 10. It can either produce me 10 or a value that is closer to 10. So in this case, can you tell me that particular number which upon squared leads me closer to 10? That is going to be 3. When I square 3, I'm getting 9. 9 is actually closer to 10. Okay, fair enough. So I can just place 3 there, 3 there. Now the all important part comes, which of these two numbers should I choose? Okay, there is this technique. Clearly I know 3 squared gives me 10. Now choose the number which is next to 3, which is going to be 4. Now 3 times 4 is what? 12. Now if this number is lesser than this number, then you choose this. If this number is greater than this number, then you choose this. Let me reiterate one more time. If this number is lesser than this number, you choose the first number, which is a smaller value. In case if this number is greater than this number, you choose this number, which is a greater value. So it depends upon the value that you get here. In this case, clearly this is smaller than this, so I'm choosing this. Now go back and you multiply and see. So all you got to do is, so I just mentioned to you, 32 into 32. You need to multiply. Now you don't have to multiply like this. Just multiply 32 into 30. And then you multiply 32 with 2. These are all simple multiplications. So you have 6 and 9, 960. And over here 4 and 6. So add them up. So 6, 12, 10. So 10, 1, 0, 2, 4. So that is the result when you multiply 32 into 32. So therefore you have made the conclusion. What is that? 1024, square root of 1024 is nothing but 32 squared. When you apply the square root, you get 32. So that is the value. Now I can give you another example. Let me just go and start giving you some illustrations. So take this example, say 2304. Now the question is, let me just go back to the paper which I've just shown you. Now I've got this quantity 2304. Now you have to talk to yourself. what is that number which when squared gives me a unit place 4. So as I just mentioned to you, this is only possible when you square 2 or 8 or 18 or 28 and so on and so forth. But more importantly, we are looking only for the unit place. So the unit place has to be occupied either by a 2 or by a 8. So that is the decision that you will have to make. The unit place has to be occupied either by a 2 or by 8 to produce me this value in the unit place. So you can simply place a 2 here or 8 here. Next, you cancel the 2 digits from the right end. Now consider this 23. How do you get 23? As I mentioned to you, you will have to locate this number which upon squared would lead me closer to 23 or 23. So in this case, I can get 5, but 5 squared is 25, which is greater than 23. I don't want that. 4 squared is 16. So if I were to place a 4 there, I would get a value that is closer to 23. So place that 4 there. Now the all important point comes here. Which of these two numbers would you choose? Is it a 42 or a 48? So for that, you have to go place 4 there. Choose the next number which is greater than 4. What is that? 5. Place that 20. Now if this number is greater than this number, then we choose this now. So in this case, this number is greater than this number, so we choose now the number which is greater among these two. So in this case, it's 48. So clearly 48 is my value to find the square root of 2304. Now if you want, you can actually check that 48 into 48 will produce me this. As I've already told you, when you want to multiply numbers like this, just take one as 48, the other as 40, and then take 48 and then you multiply by 8. So in this case, it will be simple. 32, 3, 16, 9, add a 0. This is 64, 6, 32, 8. So just place 3, 8, 4 there. 10, 10, and then 2. 2304, 2304, which produced me 48 squared, and you take the square root of that, it produces me 48. So that is the answer for this question. Now let me just move on and giving you some illustrations. So the greater the number of illustrations, the better it will be. So let me move on to the next one. So what is the square root of 1369? As I mentioned to you, I need to produce a 9 here. So the all important question is, what should you square to get 9? So go back to the table which I have given you. 9 is produced either by 3 squared is 9, or by 7 squared will also give me a 9 in the unit place. So place the number 3 and the number 7. Now strike this off. You have a 13 there. Now choose a number which upon squaring would lead me closer to 13. 4 squared gives me 16, but it is not closer to 13, it is greater than 13. Now 3 squared gives me 9, which is closer to 13. That's the furthest I can go. So clearly you place 3 there, 3 there. Now the all important part comes here. Which of these two numbers will you choose? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take 3 here. You multiply 3 by 4, you will get 12. Now if this quantity is greater than this quantity, then we choose the largest of these two numbers. So in this case, 13 is greater than 12. So 37 will be my output. So you just multiply 37 into 37. As I mentioned to you, if you want to check, you don't have to multiply 37 into 37. You can use this multiplication, 37 into 30 and then 37 into 7. So this is going to give you 21, 2, 9, 11, 0 and 49, 4. This one is 21 and 25. Add them 9, 6, 3 and 1. 1369, 1369. You see that? It's up to you which way you want to follow, but I am just doing this for check. If you don't want to do this, you can resort to a calculator for check. Of course, we are not going to be using calculators in the exam, but this is just to check so that your working is fine. So I have just mentioned you that question. Now let me move on to the next question. Say for example you got square root of 3969. Now as I mentioned to you, this 9 is produced either by a 3 or by 7, so you can just place 3 and 7, so you have two numbers here. Now the next thing is you cancel this off and you got 39. Now you need to choose a number whose square will lead me closer to 39. So in this case 7 squared is 49. I don't want it. 6 squared gives me 36, which is actually closer to 39. So you can place a 6 and a 6. But apparently you will have to make the choice, right? For that you choose the number which is subsequently coming next to 6. In this case 7. 6 times 7 is 42. Of these two numbers, which one is greater? If this is greater, then we choose the bigger number. If this isn't, then we choose this. So clearly square root of 3969 is 63. I know that it is 63. You can check it out, and that is the solution. So I've got that value. Now I can give you one more question. Say root of, say 31, probably 36. So when exactly 6 would be produced? So go back to the table that I've given you. Now 6 is produced when you square 4, when you square 6. So the unit place will have a 4 or a 6, but I don't know which it is. So cancel this off. Now you got 31. You need to choose a number which is closer to 31. It can be 5, it can be 6. 6 squared gives me 36, which isn't closer to 31. But 5 squared gives me 25, which is closer to 31. So I can very well take a 5 here or 5 here. Now that I've taken or got the choice of numbers, or I would say the numbers which are required, I need to make the all important choice, right? So for that, I'll take the number 5, subsequently take the succeeding number to 5, in this case 6. Multiply 5 with 6, you get 30. Compare this number with this number. If this number is greater than this number, and then this would be the solution. So in this case, square root of 3136 is 56. So that is the solution for this question. So like that, you can handle any 4-digit number. Any 4-digit number. So finally, I will just give you this square root of 2025. So which or what number would produce me a 5 there? Of course, it's just going to be 5. Right? There aren't any second thoughts on that. So since this being the only number which has the ability upon being squared gives me a 5 at the unit place, we don't have any other choice. So just strike this off. Now you have 20 there. So what you need to do is you need to choose a number which upon squared gives me 20. So in this case 5 squared gives me 25. 4 squared gives me 16, which is closer to 20. So I'm going to place 4 there. Now I don't have to choose the succeeding number to 4 because there isn't anything left to make the choice. So clearly square root of 2025 should be 45. I am sure. You can check that out and you will get the value to be as 45. So this is how you handle 4-digit numbers. Now you might be wondering, what is this? This guy has given me 4-digit number. Is there any way that I can handle 5-digit number? Is it possible for me? Can it be done? Of course it is possible. Now let me just go and show you how to handle the 5-digit numbers. So I hope this is clear to you. So let me go up over here and show you how to handle 5-digit numbers. Say for example, you have been given to find the square root of 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Okay, first step. Go back to the table. Square of what number will produce you this 1? So the question is square of what number? We go up over here. 1 squared will produce me 1. 9 squared will also produce me a 1. So the number can either be a 1 or a 9. So you cancel this off. Now you have 3 digits. Now take the 3 digit as a whole. Now the question is, choose a number which is very close to 123. Now 12 squared gives me 144, which is not close to 123. But 11 squared gives me 121, which is closer to 123. So I can place 11 here. I can place 11 here. Now the all important part here is to choose which of these two numbers. So since 11 has been made the choice here, pick up a number which is subsequently next to the number 11, in this case 12. Now multiply 11 into 12. Now as I mentioned to you, you can either multiply 11 with 10 and 11 with 2, but I clearly know that 11 times 12 is 132, right? So these are certain things that you will have to keep in your corner of your mind. So you have 132. Now observe, is 123 greater than 132? No. So this should be the answer. So square root of 12321 is equal to 111. So that is the solution. So that's a lovely question. So let me go back and show you the next one. Say 10404. Now when do you produce 4, or square of which number produces 4? Go back to this table. Square of which number? Say 2 squared gives me 4, or 8 squared gives me 4, right? So you can just place that 2 there, 8 there. Now circle this up, this goes off. Now you have 104. Now you have to pick a number which when squared gives you 104, or a number which is closer to 104. 11 squared is 121, I can't take it, but 10 squared gives me 100. So place 10 there, 10 there. Now I've chosen 10 there. Choose the next number, which is 11. 11 multiplied by 10 gives me 110. Now observe this. Is 104 lesser than this 110 or greater than 110? It is lesser, so make this choice. So therefore square root of 10404 is equal to 102. So that is the solution for this question. So let's find out the square root of 15129. Now clearly you got a 9 there, so go back to the table I've given you. What number upon being squared produces 9? This is the requirement. Clearly 3 squared will produce me 9, 7 squared will produce me 9 at the unit place, similarly 17 squared, and so on and so forth. So this number should carry a unit place of 3 or 7. I'm not sure which of these is going to be, but I know the choice should either be a number ending with 3 or a number ending with 7. So you just circle this off and you cancel this off, meaning you strike that off. Now you need to produce 151. Now as I mentioned to you, find out that number upon being squared will lead me to a number which is closer to 151. Now clearly if I were to take 13 squared is 169. 169 is not closer to 151, it's beyond 151. And the obvious choice is going to be 12 squared. 12 squared will give me 144, which is closer to me. Now when I talk about closer numbers, I'm talking about numbers which are lesser than the expected value of 151, and in this case clearly it should be 12 and 12. But of this 123 and 127, which of these should be the ideal choice? For that you go to 12 and you choose a subsequent number which is next to 12. That's going to be 13 in this case. Multiply 12 with 13. Of course 12 times 13 is going to be 156. Now compare 156 with 151. Which of these two numbers is the larger of the two, or among these two numbers, which is the bigger number? Clearly 151 is smaller to 156. Whenever you get that to be the result, your choice should be the smallest of these two. So in this case 123 is the smallest number. So therefore we have outrightly obtained the square root of 15129 to be equal to 123. So that's the solution. Now let me move on to the next question. Square root of 15876. Now as I mentioned to you, square of what number produces 6? So clearly go back to the table. I need to produce 6. 4 squared will produce me 6. 6 squared would produce me 6 at the unit place, of course. 16 squared, and so on and so forth. So clearly the choice should either be a 4 or a 6. Now I got 158. Now as I mentioned to you, you need to pick up a number which upon being squared would lead me to a value which is closer to 158. Now clearly if I were to take 13 squared, I am getting 169, so it's clearly off, and the obvious choice is going to be 12. So 12 squared is giving me 144, which is closer to 158. So I place 12 here, place 12 here. Now of course this is cancelled out, and that is the usual procedure. Now you take 12, you multiply with 13. 12 times 13 will give me 156. Now between 158 and 156, which is the largest of them? So 158 is a larger number. So clearly 126 is the square root of 15876. So you can just write that down. So let me go to one more question. This is the last question, 179 and 56. As I mentioned to you, this is produced either by squaring a 4 or squaring a 6. Now 179. Now 179 is what? What number can produce 179? Square of what number? So 14 squared. If I were to take 14 squared produces me 196. I don't need this. And 13 squared produces me 169, which is smaller to 179. So this should be 13, 134 or 136. But take 13 and you multiply by the subsequent number coming next to 13, which is going to be 14. Find out what is that. Now, of course, clearly I know that 13 times 14 is 182. Now, if you're not sure of it, just go take 14 multiplied by 10 and take 14 multiplied by 3. In this case, you get 140. In this case, you get 4 3s are 12, 1 3 1s are 3, 4. You get a 4 there. So 42. So 182 will be the outcome there. So this is the method which I've been telling you. You can either follow this method, or certain tables are by default it will be registered in your mind. So you can just use those values, like 13 times 12 and 13 times 15 and 13 times 14. They are all standard values which have to be recollected or remembered, or whichever that is feasible to you. Okay, I mentioned that you're getting 182. Now 182 is greater. In other words, 179 is lesser than 182. So that would mean you need to pick up the smallest value. So therefore, square root of 17956 is equal to 134. So now you can still further go up and find the next number. So 83521 is equal to, so what is this? When would I get this 1? What produces 1? Clearly, now as you practice, automatically it will come to you by second nature. 1 is produced when you square 1 or when you square 9. So it's going to be 1 or it's going to be 9. So circle this off and you cancel this. Now you have 835. Now 835, when is it possible for me to produce 835? Now this is little bit tricky in the sense you should be in a position to know certain squares. Now I have only given you squares up to 20, but I have not given you squares up to 30. So in this case, this will involve having an understanding of the squares beyond 20. Now 30 square gives me 900. 25 square gives me 625. These are all standard numbers. Now the number should definitely be between 25 and 30, right? So you will have to make the choice between 25 to 30, which are the numbers. Now 26, is it going to be 26, or is it going to be 27, or is it going to be 28? So you will have to make the choice. Now since the difference between 835 and 900 is 65, what I want to do is I want to check 28. I don't want to check 26 or 27, because of the fact that square of 30 gives me 900, which is very close to 835. So I don't want to go to 29. If 28 fails, I will reach to 29, but I just want to check 28 and 29. So you can just make this check, 28 or 29. So first I will check 28. Now as I mentioned to you, you can multiply 28 with 20 and then 28 with 8. This would a little bit ease up your multiplication process. So 8 2s are 16, 1 2 are 4 5, that's 560, 64, 6, 8 2s are 16 and 6, that's 2 2 4. So 2 2 4 4 8 7 8 4. Okay, so let me check 29. You don't have to, you can follow the same pattern, 29 into 9. So this is going to be 18 1 4 5 8 0, and then 81 8 9 2s are 18 and 2 6 1. So 2 6 1, this is going to be 1 14 8 4 8 4 1. So this is a greater value. So that's why I said I don't want to pick 29. So there is a certain degree of approximation that you will have to apply when you are performing this operation. This is called as trial and error. Okay, trial and error. Now this is a very important technique because it allows you to filter the process out in a faster manner. So as I mentioned to you, I see 2828 featuring well, but I need to make the choice, right? So 28 you need to multiply with 27 and then find out which of these two numbers. So you can multiply it like this, 28 times 20 and then 28 times 7. So this is going to give me 61560, and the 7, this is going to be 7 times 8 is 56, 5, then 7 2s are 14, 196. So 6 here, 5 here, and then 6 and 7, 756. Now the question is 835 greater than 756? Of course. So 289 should be my solution. So square root of, therefore 83521 is equal to 289. So that is the answer to this question. Now of course you might be wondering, do we have to deal with numbers of this fashion? Of course we have to deal with numbers of this fashion. There is, depending upon the intensity of the exams. So I hope you enjoyed today's class. Please give your like, share and comments. If you need extra questions, please let me know. Thank you.